Hey folks, welcome back to Game Garbage, where we take a look at games, chat about the game news in the industry, and of course, stream for fun. Today, we finally got a response. Well, not today, but this was like, I don't know, a couple days ago now. Finally, a response from the CFO, Chief Financial Officer of Sony, talking about digital only. Now, this is translated. Okay, it's imperfect. It's kind of choppy. The guy also has some technical mic issues, which I think is a kind of auto detection thing, which doesn't quite work right. But the guy does stutter. And so that's how I know that this is an AI. But yeah, I just want to hear what he translates with what she's saying.
PS5 ending disc production. The second question. So on this point, we announced that from January 2028 onwards, we will no longer be manufacturing game discs. So 1.5 years ahead. So we made this announcement at this time. There are various reasons we made this decision, the biggest being that the digitalization of content overall has been progressing. That's the big factor. It's not just PlayStation, but for all kinds of content, digitalization is progressing. And so when we think about the future, and we put in a lot of thought and time, and we cautiously consider this, we came to this conclusion, going to cautiously move this forward and reach this decision. We have received various opinions, and people have strong views, and we understand that the community has put forth those views to us. Games are loved by many people. It's a form of entertainment that's loved by people, and it connects to people social memories in many cases. In many cases, we understand those emotions. We want to consider in the future ecosystem how we engage with games. It's something we would like to continue to explore.
So listening to that, it is pretty broken, but like the reason that's cited of why they're doing this, or one of the big reasons they're doing this, is because everything is going digital only anyway. And what they really need to say is that it's really for profit, because some of the cost actually goes to the disc manufacturer and they have to pay that. And Sony's last fireside chat that they had, which I think was last year, maybe a couple years ago now, Nishino and also, oh, I forget her name, well, and Holst too, they all expressed that we need to get our profitability up and increase our ROI and all of that kind of stuff. And they've talked too about monetizing the player base. Also, right now, PlayStation has multiple lawsuits from the UK. United States already happened. Netherlands is also in the works, and so is Portugal, and I also believe Singapore, where they're working on suing them. Well, and I guess now Mexico as well. We're suing them for antitrust type of stuff for manipulation of their digital storefronts. And the only reason we know that exists is because of the physical copies of those same games. We can see the price trending, and that's what they're suing over. They're like, yeah, you are forcing people to pay higher prices when the open market is showing lower prices for physical and way higher, sometimes even double or even more than double the for digital games. So they want to remove physical games, I believe, so that they can ultimately get rid of that and no longer basically be sued. And it's ultimately, of course, more profit and more control for PlayStation. And PlayStation's moves has been very kind of controlling, restrictive, raising those walled gardens to try to ensure that people kind of stay in the ecosystem. Now, they also said that they will, quote, will stop making physical discs after January of 2028. Now, that's a little incorrect because you can still place orders by, I believe so, by January of 2028. But after that, there are no more orders. So the discs still technically have to then be made per those orders. But after that batch of last orders, there is no more. Not for old, not for new. There's absolutely nothing of that going forward. And that's something people are missing too, is that Sony's statement specifically states that you are able to place orders up to January of 2028, but not after that. So yeah, literally no more physical discs. That'll just completely disappear. Also too, it makes me think about the backwards compatibility. Now, what we have heard with PlayStation 6 is that there is going to be backwards compatibility for PlayStation 5 and also PlayStation 4, but not anything else. You'll then have to pay PlayStation Plus to gain the rest of your accessibility, basically, for PlayStation 3, 2, and 1 games and Vita and whatever else. And it really sucks because we're getting to a point where we are certainly losing the ability of ownership. And this is why a lot of people, I think, are frustrated. We've already had news for a couple of years about Stop Killing Games. We've already had examples with like The Crew and other games just completely going offline, Anthem as well. And it's not that these games are bad, but it's become a kind of unsung trend now that if you are going to kill a live service game like Redfall or Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, that you actually make an offline mode now so that the game can still actually continue to run in some shape or form. And that's all we're really asking for. But this digital only, it kind of hinders that future. Okay. And most of us probably don't trust these companies, whether Xbox, Nintendo, or PlayStation, or even Steam. But, Steam is just more honest about it. And of course, they're never going to really get rid of your library if they can help it. But there are sometimes games that are completely delisted and also removed from your library. So it's imperfect. And there's issues with hacking and losing accounts, though, Steam and Xbox have been doing better on that. Xbox lately has been saying, yeah, they're working with people to get their stuff back, which is wonderful. We need to see that because if we are ultimately going to a digital only, we need to have some trust and faith there with the companies that they will allow us keep access. That's how we feel that we have ownership, even though we really don't at the end of the day. But yeah, they have no Sony has no focus of actually reversing this or changing this. And again, they don't think it's really going to matter. They say that they're still open to thinking about kind of how to deal with this in the future, but they did say, quote, that they will. And so that is already in the works. That's already the plan. We know that one of the plants in, I think, Australia is already shifting over to making something else, which basically Sony is pushing toward more AI type of stuff and these types of lenses and working on that manufacturing. And they also have made several deals in the billions with other type of AI stuff, whether it's AI or AI self-driving type of stuff or algorithmic things or even making these lenses. And so yeah, it is shifting. Like it's not planning to go back, but I think Sony is underestimating how many people are actually frustrated by this. And the biggest, demographic age group of players and gamers right now on console are actually millennials. And so we're all roughly around 30s right now. And so yeah, if we get, frustrated enough and we quit or move to Steam or move to something else or just go retro entirely, it's that's just what's going to happen. And while I don't think people are going to can their PlayStation 5 stuff now, I do wonder what PlayStation 4 is going to do because they're probably going to shut down the store for PlayStation 4 when the PlayStation 6 is out. We don't know exactly when, but that's usually the trend is that 2 generations back they can the store. And then are people from PlayStation 5 going to switch over? And people are frustrated, and there's multiple ways that people are protesting this, but it is becoming a mess. So yeah, Sony CFO, Chief Financial Officer Lin Tao, that is her name. I wanted to share too that while this is not completely complete, we're going to work on filling in the gaps here. But their record was actually 132 for Q3 of 2025, which was really good. What they have right now is that they have 125 million, so that's a bit of a dip. And then the previous quarter they had was 126. So they are trending down a little bit, but again, these are quarters before the announcement. Well, I know, I guess it's kind of right on the announcement, if you want to think of it that way. The other thing too is that they have officially, at least as of June here, with Insider, 23 million units that they have sold or shipped. Okay, that's always kind of a murky number. Also, 47 million subscribers on PlayStation Plus. That used to be 50 or 51, so that has dropped a little bit, at least from last month. And then, yeah, 125 million monthly active users, down from the previous quarter of 126. I wish to show this too, because just to kind of lay out exactly when things are. This is right now, but again, their fiscal year is kind of more ending in May or like in April. So that's kind of when they tend to do a lot of stuff. And this is kind of actually when we got this announcement, was around toward the end of the fiscal year. And then their stock was like, boop. I mean, they were super excited and happy about that, or supposed to. This is when kind of when it spiked up, and then yeah, it came back down again. So, but yeah, the other thing that we never see is the direct net profitability of PlayStation or even of Sony, which I think is kind of weird. It's never really talked about in news articles. Like I feel like people are kind of still covering for Sony, and even too just the articles that are out there that are on your screen to view, whatever platform you're on. There's a lot of it of just like, oh yeah, Capcom is 93% digital sales. PlayStation is now like over 85%, all of this kind of stuff. And they're still missing the fact that players have the option. And if you remove the option, that changes the game for some players. Now, at least with Steam, for those that are like, well, what's different with Steam? You can still make a physical copy. You can do that. That's the difference. Also, Steam is upfront with what they're doing and how you can actually engage with stuff. I think too, if things are digital only after a while going forward, that the return policy needs to change. Right now, PlayStation's return policy is that if it is not downloaded and it was purchased, you can get a full refund within 14 days. That is their return policy. Other times, if a game is super buggy or completely fails, like Concord did, or Cyberpunk 2077 or Starfield, then they will allow a full refund to you. But other than that, it doesn't happen. Nintendo's is actually worse, if you can believe it, and Xbox's is actually much more in line with what actually Steam has. So that's where return policies are. But yeah, we need a guarantee. Because who's going to pay $70 on a risk? Not too many people today. It costs too much money. The other thing too is that we've heard this before is that supposedly we're not going to have a price hike for now. The PlayStation has enough RAM to meet PS5 production needs through fiscal year of 2026. That's a few more quarters. And so yeah, there's no immediate risk of a price hike. But yeah, reducing, suggesting, this is not guaranteed, guys. I want to make that clear. This is not guaranteed. And this was supposed to stop the last rate hike in the first place. Oh, it's $500 or $550. That's wonderful. Oh, now we're going to $650. Ooh. We're going to $900 for the Pro. Ooh. So this does not mean that we are going to be guaranteed that they're not going to raise the price sometime later this year, even going into the holiday, which I think they could. And they're already talking about also raising price again for PlayStation Plus, which is incredibly frustrating. So this is where Sony is at. Ultimately, I mean, they don't think you're going to do anything. And we don't even hear anything from Nishino. And we just hear something from the CFO at Sony. It's also incredibly interesting, too, that days after announcing digital only, a lot of the execs had their a lot of shares sell. And they made a bunch of money off of that little blip that I showed on the chart. And yeah, she's just the CFO. Now, the original Sony president that we had previous, he was removed. And the old CFO is now the president, and now she's taken his place. So, but yeah, the person that's in charge is a financial officer. So he just deals with numbers and money, and he knows them very, very well. And he knows the past history of Sony. He's been there for quite a while. And so that's kind of how he's thinking about it. But the faith in PlayStation and Sony is shaken. I mean, they're changing how they're doing their TVs. They're allowing licensing, distribution licensing to expire, like they did with Funimation in 2024, like they did with Studio Canal, literally like last month. And then yeah, they're also making changes to currently Crunchyroll. And I wouldn't trust them either, honestly. The digital future we know is coming, but there's also a lot of demand for physical. I got a bunch of physical on my shelf. You should see it. And other people, that's also becoming more popular too, whether it's CDs or Blu-rays or DVDs. Some people are even recollecting VHS and cassettes, which are crazy. That's what I grew up with. And even just being able again to possess the files yourself are important. But yeah, they are not backing down. This is currently where the signatures are as of August 1st, the morning of August 1st, 354,000. That's where we're at. And we're going to need like a million or a few million to actually sign this. But again, I got to think too that if we have roughly 125 million, but we've only sold 93 million PlayStation 5s, that means that there's like 30, 38. Am I doing the math right? 38 million that are still on like PlayStation 4 or PS Portal or something like that. And that's a lot. What are they going to do? Because their store is disappearing maybe after a couple of years after the PlayStation 6 launches. So yeah, I think the risk is that a lot of people don't actually buy the PlayStation 6. And this has been going on for a while. And initially, they were not going to release a statement. They weren't going to say anything. But the backlash a backlash, just like Magnus says, is just it's just absurd. With everything from Spider-Man: Brand New Day, from the stick fighting pad for Marvel Tokon, the stuff with Marvel Tokon, the beta itself, any announcement for anything that Sony or PlayStation has, it's just getting crazy. And even like third party partners are noticing this, like, hey, we're announcing this game on PlayStation and no disc, no buy, and just all of this stuff. I think PlayStation needs to be careful because they already burned some people with the PlayStation 5, and it's not like this is the only thing. Okay, there's multiple things. There's multiple grievances that people have, and I think this is why we're having the backlash in the first place. But they have no plans to reverse course. And so, well, will people put their money where their mouth is? I don't know. I still agree most people will probably just stick with it. They will plan to get a PlayStation 6, but it's all about how they do it. Will they just order physical now? And I even mentioned in a previous vid that while digital is focused, the demand for physical is not being met. We got to see that with 3 games this year. We're seeing that with Mortal Shell 2. We're seeing that is that there's not enough physical demand to actually meet those pre-orders. They're having too many. We also got to see that with Halo Campaign Evolved. And we also got to see that with Resident Evil Requiem. They couldn't fill those orders either. So I just think it's interesting. That's GameStop talking about that. So yeah, they've been struggling all year to actually meet the demand of physical pre-orders, and the publishers, regardless of who they are not meeting the demand. They're not making enough. So there's more demand than we think there is. And I think even now, so there's more demand than there used to be, simply because of what's going on with PlayStation. I think it's waking some people up. So we'll see what happens. But again, the thing that we don't see is we don't see PlayStation's profit. We see their return on investment. We see operation income, all of this stuff. But again, we do not see actual profit numbers on PlayStation. And I think the reason we see that is because it's still low. And so I don't think it'll take that many to say no to PlayStation 6, to say no to digital pre-orders, to just not buy anything to begin with. There's even a blackout period now, August 23rd through the 30th, to just not do anything on PlayStation. And some people, like Legacy Killa HD, is already saying he's already there. He's just not touching his PlayStation. So yeah, people are protesting. They're upset by this because I think the walled garden is a curtain. And we're seeing what's on the other side. And we're seeing now, with comparison, how bad it is in the garden. And this is good. I think players need the right to own. And with that, folks, I'll see you guys on the next one. Like and sub if you like the vid. Thank you.